My husband died in my arms on a Tuesday afternoon. We were sitting on our back porch watching the birds at the feeder, and he just stopped breathing. 71 years old, married for 49 years, and in the space of 3 minutes, he was gone. But it's what he said in those final moments that destroyed everything I thought I knew about love, about marriage, about the life we'd built together. My name is Dorothy. I'm 73 years old, and those 3 words my husband whispered as he died have haunted me every single day for the last 2 years. They've made me question everything. They've made me see that I spent nearly 5 decades in a marriage that was a beautiful, comfortable, soul-crushing lie. And if you're married right now, or thinking about getting married, or telling yourself your marriage is fine, you need to hear this, because what Robert told me in his last breath could save you from wasting your entire life the way I wasted mine. It was June 14th, 2022, a Tuesday. I remember because we'd just gotten back from the grocery store, and I'd been annoyed because Robert had insisted on buying the expensive coffee again. 49 years of marriage, and we were still having the same stupid argument about coffee. We sat down on the porch like we did every afternoon. Him in his chair, me in mine, not touching. We never touched anymore. Hadn't in years, really, but we sat together, and that counted for something, right? He was holding his coffee cup, the expensive coffee he'd insisted on, and he turned to me and said, "Dorothy, I need to tell you something." The way he said it made my stomach drop. I thought he was going to tell me he was sick, cancer maybe, or Alzheimer's. I actually hoped it was something like that, something medical, something that wasn't my fault. "What is it?" I asked. He opened his mouth to speak, and then his face went strange, pale. His eyes got wide. The coffee cup slipped from his hand and shattered on the porch. "Robert," I grabbed his arm. He looked at me, and there was something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Panic, yes, but also relief, like he'd been carrying something heavy for so long and was finally about to set it down. His breath was coming in short gasps. I was screaming for help, fumbling for my phone, but he grabbed my hand, squeezed it hard, harder than he'd held my hand in 20 years. "Dorothy," he gasped, "I have to. I need you to know." "Don't talk." I was crying, shaking, trying to dial 911. "Just hold on. The ambulance is coming. Just hold on." But he pulled me closer. His grip was so strong. He looked right into my eyes, and he said 3 words. 3 words that have replayed in my head every single day since. I felt trapped. Then his hand went limp. His eyes fixed on something I couldn't see, and he was gone. I felt trapped. Not "I love you," not "thank you for everything," not "take care of yourself." I felt trapped. The paramedics came. They worked on him for 20 minutes. I watched them compress his chest, trying to bring him back. Part of me hoped they wouldn't succeed, because if he came back, I'd have to ask him what he meant, and I already knew. God help me, I already knew. They pronounced him dead at 3:47 p.m. I called our daughter Jessica. She lived in Portland, started crying immediately, said she'd be on the next flight. I called our son Michael. He was in Boston, said he'd drive up that night. I called Robert's brother, our neighbors, people from church. And then I sat in our living room in the house we'd lived in for 43 years, surrounded by photos of our supposedly happy life, and I thought about those 3 words. I felt trapped. The funeral was 4 days later. Huge turnout. Robert had been beloved. Everyone talked about what a good man he was, devoted husband, wonderful father, pillar of the community. The pastor gave a beautiful eulogy about our beautiful marriage and our deep love for each other. I sat in the front pew, wearing black, accepting condolences, playing the grieving widow, and all I could think was he felt trapped. For how long? Was it years? decades, our entire marriage. Jessica held my hand during the service. He loved you so much, Mom, she whispered. Did he? Did he really? Or did he just stay because leaving would have been harder than staying? Did he love me or did he just endure me? After the funeral, after everyone left, after the casseroles were in the fridge and the flowers were dying on the counter, I did something I'd never done in 49 years of marriage. I went through Robert's things, really went through them, looking for, I don't know what, proof, evidence, an explanation for those three final words. I found his journals in a box in the garage, tucked behind old paint cans and tools he never used. 37 journals spanning our entire marriage. I didn't even know he kept journals. I started reading, and what I found destroyed me. The first entry was from 1973, 2 months after our wedding. Married Dorothy today. She looked beautiful. Everyone says we're perfect together. I hope they're right. I'm not sure I know what love is supposed to feel like, but this seems like what everyone describes. Safe, stable. She'll be a good wife. A good wife, not the love of my life, not, I can't believe I get to spend forever with her. A good wife. I kept reading, years and years of entries, and slowly, horrifyingly, a picture emerged of a man who had convinced himself he was happy when he was actually just existing. 1976. Jessica was born today. Dorothy is a wonderful mother. I made the right choice marrying her, even if I sometimes wonder what my life would have been like if I'd gone to California like I planned. But that's just cold feet. This is real life. California? What was in California? I'd never heard about California. I found the answer 50 pages later, 1972, 1 year before he met me. He'd been accepted to a graduate program at Berkeley, marine biology. He'd wanted to study whales. He wrote pages and pages about it. The excitement vibrated off the paper. But his parents had told him it was impractical, that he needed to stay in Connecticut, get a real job, settle down. So he'd become an insurance agent instead. Met me at a church social 6 months later. Got married a year after that. He wrote, Dorothy is what I'm supposed to want. She's kind, she's pretty, she'll be a good mother. My parents approve, her parents approve. Everyone says we're perfect together. Why doesn't it feel like the poems say it should feel? Why doesn't it feel like the poems say it should feel? We got married anyway because that's what you did, because everyone said we were perfect, because he was 26 and it was time to settle down, because I was safe. I was safe, not exciting, not passionate, not the love of his life, safe. I read entry after entry, years of him convincing himself he was happy, years of him talking himself out of his doubts, years of him performing contentment while his real self suffocated. 1984. 11 years married. Jessica is 8. Michael is 5. Dorothy keeps a good home. She's a devoted mother. We have a nice life. Why do I feel so empty? Why do I look at couples who laugh together and wonder what that feels like? We never laugh. We coexist. But that's marriage, isn't it? The passion fades. You settle into partnership. Everyone says so. 991. 18 years. Took Dorothy to dinner for our anniversary. She wore the blue dress I bought her. She looked nice. We had nothing to talk about. We never have anything to talk about. We discuss the kids, the house, what needs fixing, what bills need paying, but we don't connect. Is that normal? Is everyone else faking it too? 1998. 25 years today, silver anniversary, big party. Everyone toasted to our incredible marriage and our inspiring love. I smiled and raised my glass and felt absolutely nothing. I felt nothing for so long I've forgotten what feeling feels like. But I have responsibilities. I have children. I have a wife who depends on me. I can't leave. Where would I even go? I'm 52 years old. This is my life. I made my choice. I'll honor it. I made my choice. I'll honor it. He was trapped. He'd known it for decades, and he'd stayed anyway. The most devastating entry was from 2015, 7 years before he died. 42 years married, the kids are grown. Jessica lives across the country. Michael has his own family. It's just me and Dorothy now, and we have nothing. We sit in the same room and we're strangers. She asks me about my day, and I tell her fine, because what else is there to say? How do I tell her I've been unhappy for 4 decades? How do I tell her I stayed because I felt obligated, not because I wanted to? She's not a bad person. She's been a good wife, a good mother. This isn't her fault. It's mine. I chose safety over truth. I chose comfort over connection. And now I'm 69 years old, and it's too late to do anything about it. It's too late to do anything about it. I read those journals for 3 days straight. I didn't eat. I barely slept. I just read and cried and felt my entire life collapse around me. 49 years. We were married for 49 years, and he was unhappy the entire time. No, that's not quite right. He wasn't unhappy. He was nothing. He was numb. He was going through the motions. He was performing the role of happy husband while his real self withered away, and I'd had no idea. None. I thought we had a good marriage, not passionate, not exciting, but solid, stable. We'd raised 2 kids. We'd built a life. We were partners, but we weren't partners. We were cellmates. 2 people serving time in a prison of their own making, too afraid to escape. I called Jessica a week after the funeral. She was back in Portland. I asked her to come visit again. Something in my voice must have scared her because she was on a plane the next day. We sat in my kitchen, and I asked her something I'd never asked before. Jessica, was your father happy? She looked uncomfortable. What kind of question is that? Just answer it, I said. She was quiet for a long time. Then, I don't know, Mom. He was steady, reliable, but happy. I don't think I ever saw him really happy. Not the way other dads seemed happy. Did he ever talk to you about his life, about choices he'd made? Jessica's eyes filled with tears. Once, I was home from college, maybe 20 years old. We were washing dishes together, and out of nowhere he said, Jess, when you meet someone, make sure they set you on fire. Don't settle for someone who's just nice. I asked him what he meant, and he just changed the subject. But Mom, the way he said it, it sounded like a warning. Don't settle for someone who's just nice. Was that what I was to him? Nice? Safe? The sensible choice he regretted for 50 years? Why are you asking this? Jessica said. I told her about the 3 words. I told her about the journals. I watched her face crumble as she realized her parents' marriage had been a lie. My whole childhood was a lie, she whispered. No, I said, your childhood was real. Your father loved you. He was a good father. But our marriage, I don't think it was ever what I thought it was. Jessica left the next day. She was angry. Not at me, not at her father, just angry that everything she'd believed about love and marriage and her parents had been a performance. I spent the next 6 months alone in that house, trying to understand how I'd been married to someone for 49 years and never really known them. But that wasn't quite right either. The question wasn't how I didn't know Robert. The question was, did Robert know me? And the answer was devastating. No, he didn't, because I'd never let him. I'd been performing too. I'd played the role of devoted wife, loving mother, perfect homemaker. I'd smiled when I was supposed to smile. I'd cooked the meals he liked. I'd kept the house clean. I'd been pleasant and agreeable and everything a wife was supposed to be. But who was I underneath that? Who was Dorothy, stripped of all the roles? I had no idea. I started thinking about our marriage, really thinking about it, trying to remember moments of genuine connection, times when we'd really seen each other, not just the roles we were playing. I couldn't find many. Our wedding night, we'd been awkward and nervous, and I'd cried afterward, not from happiness, but from fear that I'd just made a terrible mistake. I'd pushed that feeling down, told myself it was just wedding day jitters. The birth of our children. We'd held our babies and looked at each other, and I'd thought we were connected. But now I wondered if we were both just looking at what we'd created together, not at each other. Our 25th anniversary trip to Maine. We'd walked on the beach and he'd held my hand and I'd felt nothing. But I'd told myself that was normal. That's what marriage becomes. Comfortable companionship. Comfortable. That word kept coming up. Our marriage was comfortable, like an old couch, familiar, safe, completely devoid of passion or life or truth. I realized something that made me physically sick. I had loved Robert, but I had loved the idea of Robert, the reliable husband, the good father, the man who would never leave me or hurt me or demand too much from me. But I had never loved the real Robert, the man who dreamed of studying whales, the man who felt trapped, the man who died with regret on his lips. I'd never even tried to know that man. One night, about 8 months after Robert died, I did something crazy. I drove to the beach in Maine where we'd gone for our 25th anniversary. It was January, freezing. The beach was empty. And I screamed. I screamed at Robert for lying to me for 49 years. I screamed at myself for being so blind. I screamed at the life we'd wasted, the connection we'd never had, the truth we'd both been too afraid to speak. Then I sat on the frozen sand and I asked myself the questions I should have asked 50 years ago. What did I actually want from a marriage? I'd wanted security. I'd wanted someone who would stay. I'd wanted to not be alone. I'd wanted to check the box. Married, done, life complete. But had I wanted passion? Had I wanted someone who knew my soul? Had I wanted to be truly seen, truly known, truly loved? I don't think I did, because being truly known is terrifying. It requires vulnerability. It requires showing the parts of yourself you've learned to hide. It requires the risk that someone might see the real you and leave. So I'd married Robert, who was safe and kind and would never demand too much from me. And he'd married me for the same reasons. We'd both chosen safety over truth, and we'd both died inside because of it. The second question hit me even harder. Who was I before I became a wife? I was 24 when I met Robert. Who was I before that? I'd wanted to be a journalist. I'd been editor of my college newspaper. I'd wanted to travel, to write, to tell stories that mattered. But my mother said journalism was too unstable. My father said I needed to find a husband, settle down, have children. So I'd gotten a secretarial job instead. Met Robert at a church social, got married at 25. Had Jessica at 27, became a stay-at-home mom. The journalist disappeared. The dreamer disappeared. Dorothy, the wife, took her place. But who was Dorothy underneath? What did she love? What made her laugh? What set her soul on fire?